Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It has been a while since we've gathered around this virtual table for one of my birthday episodes, and I can't think of a better moment to reconnect than now as I turn 45. There's something profoundly pivotal about this year that calls me to share, to reflect out loud. What a journey this has been. Today, we dive into reflections at 45. A decade ago, at 35, my life looked entirely different. I was single, without children, and my mother was still here. The path my life would take seemed obscured by a fog of uncertainty. Back then, I couldn't have imagined the changes, the growth, or the depth of experiences that lay ahead. I consciously decided to invest more energy in the areas that mattered most, and here we are, 10 years later, with stories to tell and wisdom to share. At 45, I've learned many things, from the power of inner guidance to the liberating act of letting go of societal illusions. As we explore these insights, I hope to illuminate not just my path, but perhaps shed light on yours as we navigate this complex and beautiful life together. So let's get into my 10 reflections at 45. Number 1, you are the expert of your life. Truly, you are. Everything you need is already within you. But sometimes it might feel hidden, drowned out by the voices of those around you, parents, friends, even strangers. It's tough to hear your own voice when you're constantly tuning in to others, trying to adopt their paths as your own. Here's what you need to do. Find a quiet space and really learn to listen to yourself. What is it that you truly want? When those limiting beliefs start to creep in, I want you to challenge them. Those lies despise being questioned. So ask, is this thought true? When that limiting belief comes for you, ask it, is it true? And watch how lies crumble when they are questioned. Number 2, we often think we need to add more to our lives or do more to find happiness. However, what we really need to do is let go of those ideas. Let go of certain ideas. This year, I read a book, Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Now, I want to say this. This is not a book that will resonate with everyone. So I want to tell you that if you pick it up and you're like, Myleik, what was this? I mean, you just have to be, as I was reading it, I was thinking, there are other times in my life when I would have picked up this book and thrown it like, what is this? But I picked it up and this felt like the time. This book carries a profound message. And the message that I want to highlight today is happiness is our natural state, much like it is for children before society's layers of influence take hold. In this book, Anthony DeMello argues that happiness isn't something you acquire. It is already within us. Why don't we feel it then? Because we are burdened by illusions, by the labels we cling to that create our ambitions, our greed, and our cravings. He suggests a simple yet radical approach. Drop the illusions. Stop telling yourself, I should be blank by now. Just drop it and watch life get easier and even delightful when we can shed those layers. Number 3, we often create our own suffering by resisting the reality of our lives. As Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher who penned the Tao Te Ching, also known as the Way, teaches us, life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. By embracing this wisdom, We can reduce our suffering and allow life to unfold naturally. Which brings me to number 4, which seems unlikely, but I feel like this needs to be said, and something that I grappled with in the last sort of 2 years of my life, and it is stress. Stress and high stress has now been accepted as the new normal and demands our attention and our management. According to the latest Stress in America survey by Harvard Business Review, a staggering 67% of young adults report that stress hampers their focus, with 58% describing their daily stress levels as completely overwhelming. Nearly half feel so incapacitated by stress that they struggle to function. Stress manifests in various physical and mental symptoms. And this is something that, I don't know, it just took me such a while to process. And so I want to share this just to bring it to the forefront of your mind. You might notice muscle tension, headaches, insomnia, or you're getting sick more. Mentally, it can present as anxiety, negativity, or inability to focus. Emotionally, you might feel irritable, impatient, or defensive. Behaviorally, it can lead to poor decision-making, procrastination, and even quitting tasks or engagements. And Harvard Business Review suggests that we look at our language and say, when your language starts to reflect feelings of being exhausted, defeated, or overwhelmed, that's an indicator that your stress levels are dangerously high, possibly pushing you towards burnout. Learning to recognize these signs and actively working to limit stress is crucial for maintaining your well-being. And so it is so important that I say this, because I don't think I realized I normalized high stress for such a long time. And I think the song that we are now experiencing is this sort of collective burnout. And I feel like we can't keep trying to manage that or find ways to do it again, overdo things to the point that we just find new ways to burn out. Number 5, I want you to consider using the word complete when you're thinking of ending or quitting something. It is not failure, it is completed. Emily McDowell, who I don't even know, I started following her years ago when I noticed these fun cards in some of the card shops here in Atlanta. She has a lovely newsletter, but I clipped something for her newsletter for this. And so she highlights how societal definitions of success can trap us. We're told a successful marriage lasts until death, and a successful career is one where you constantly ascend, you keep going up to the top, promotion after promotion, earning more until you retire. This view, she says, ties us to past decisions often made by a younger version of ourselves with less life experience and information. I hate doing this, but I have to say this again. This view ties us to past decisions often made by a younger version of ourselves with less life experience and information. She says our culture glorifies perseverance as if it were a religion, bombarding us with media narratives where heroes overcome all odds. And so the societal message becomes clear. Winners never quit. So the idea of giving up is equated with failure. But what if what you're pursuing no longer feels right to you? Emily suggests that we need to embrace change just as the world around us does. She says the world gets to change, but we don't. Declaring something as complete is a neutral stance, and it is not about failure. It is about recognizing that a chapter has ended. And so we get to take pride in what we accomplished, and we get to move forward. It is complete. Number 6, This is my favorite, and I've been saying this constantly. And the reason why I've said it constantly is it's something that I've had to say to myself after I became a parent, a parent and a co-parent. I don't parent alone. And so your way is a way. It is not the way. I have to say that to myself. We often get so wrapped up in our own standards and rules for life, imposing them as if they are the only acceptable methods. Think about it. We act as though there is only one right way to wash dishes, one right way to ask a question, one right way to be a friend. I don't know about you, but that sounds ridiculous. Yet, this is how we operate, adhering to these personal standards without much reflection. Have you ever paused to consider whether your way is even still your way, or if it's just a habit that you've never questioned? Which brings me to number 7. It is okay to age. I hate when people say 40 wear or 45 wear. Girl, 45 all in these knees. That's where 45, and the fact that I can't be at this computer without my readers. That's where it is okay to age. The arc of life doesn't simply continue to grow more youthful or get better. Each year we gain and we lose. We might gain more wisdom and lose some eyesight. Acceptance is key. As you reach certain milestones, you might notice the struggle to cling to youth. While there are certainly ways to slow the aging process, the fundamental truth remains: we are all on the same journey, and none of us are going to make it out of here alive. When we can embrace this reality, it comes with a profound sense of peace and groundedness. Which brings me to number 8, which is the topic of death. Educating ourselves about death can change the way you live. Consider following a death doula like Alua Arthur, who explores these themes deeply in her book, Briefly Perfectly Human. She has a beautiful TED Talk, and she suggests that instead of obsessing over a grand life purpose, we should allow ourselves to be human. She says acknowledging our death means we aren't the center of the story, and we have to surrender to the big I don't know of life. Getting educated about death teaches us to surrender to life's great unknowns and begin to embrace the mystery with some humility and some grace. Watching my mom die over the last year greatly shaped the way that I live moving forward, much like death changes all of us. And one of the big things that I walked away from that experience with is just how much more time we need to spend being unafraid to talk about death, because I know we would have better lives and people would have better experiences at the end, less afraid, just, in the way that because I became a mom and lost my mom within the decade, it's like we blaze these babies in with big parties and celebrating mom, and we getting them everything. And then we get to the end of this, like what we acknowledge as a beautiful moment. And then we are so afraid. And it's just like, what if we, as we have our birth plan, create our death plan? How do we want to get out of here? And what's funny, in Alua's TED Talk, she says that when she's dying, she hopes it's sunset. She wants to wear socks because her feet get cold. And she says, and if I have on a bra, I'm coming back to get a bunch of y'all. And I just cracked up. Okay, this takes me to number 9, which is embracing the concept of not knowing and making peace with life as a mystery. Surrender to the uncertainty of experiences like what the first date might be like, or the outcomes of being truly honest with your friends. Letting go of the need for foresight to see before allows us to live more fully in the moment, accepting whatever comes with openness and curiosity. Number 10, my final reflection centers on belief and the power of our thoughts. Byron Katie beautifully captures this idea. She says, If a thought is hurtful, then it is untrue. This year, I've dedicated myself to challenging myself to dissolve thoughts that don't serve me through an inquiry process that Byron Katie developed, but it's super easy and I'm sure, easy for you to do. And when something comes up that is hurtful, a thought comes up that's hurtful for you, I would ask it, is it true? Can I prove it? How does this thought make me feel? And how would I feel without it? And a lot of times what I notice when I sit with my friends and we start to talk about these thoughts and we start inquiring, that last question of like, how would I feel without it the answer is always free. I would feel free. And for me, as I continue on this arc of life, if I have another 45 years, I want to be free. And so this process of questioning is not just about identifying those stories we tell, those lies, but about liberating ourselves from the burdens that they impose on us. And so for fun, you guys, I recently revisited episode 27, which was Reflections at 35. I couldn't help myself. Lessons learned on the eve of my personal new year. I was curious to see how my perspectives have evolved over the past decade. And so let's see what I said. I'll go through them quickly. I just have notes and then I'll let you know what has changed for me. So 10 years ago, my number one was effort and happiness. Saying happiness doesn't come effortlessly. It takes conscious effort to prioritize happiness every day, especially in handling negative interactions with tact and confidence. And I think during that time, I had to work so hard for my happiness. And now on the other side, I shared that, I understand that it is like it comes naturally to us, and really investigating the things that I have grown to believe that sort of strips me of it. And the effort, is less of doing and more of stripping, which I talked about. Number 2, 10 years ago, was about never settling and the importance of not settling in life and, aspiring to be your best self and not accepting anything less than what one deserves. And you know what? I still stand by that. I still stand by the quote of when you settle for less than what is that quote that I used to say? When you settle for less than what you want, you get less than what you settled for, something like that. And it's just like, if it's not what you want, then don't settle for that, and this doesn't mean, I think sometimes we maybe get in jobs or we get in relationships and we are always looking for like better, 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 better. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about giving yourself the space to keep your desires intact. If that is truly what you want, please keep going. My number 3 was about supporting other women. Still stand by that. I still stand by that. Like, so much of what I've done over the last decade is about supporting women. And I feel like in this next decade, I am getting real therapy with it. Like, I am no longer afraid to pour on, to tell people how I feel about them. I'm good with it. And so I'm always going to be in support of other women. Number 4, I talked about health, and that physical health is as vital as mental health, and investing time in both is essential. And that has not changed for me. Number 5, the power of no. Learning to say no is important. It is a complete sentence. Boundaries holding firm. Let me tell you how I've gotten better though in the last decade with no. I used to say no with explanation. I used to say no and feel the need to qualify it. And now I'm just so, I've released myself from the idea that I have to have an answer. Like, it's just no. Number 6, self-support. Being one's own biggest fan is not about arrogance. It's about self-appreciation and affirmation, especially when you don't have that external validation. I still stand by that. you got to be the one that's holding you down. You have to support yourself. I've talked about this, I feel like a couple of podcasts ago, but I still hold true to that. Number 7, embracing ignorance, which is it's okay to not know everything. That still holds true. We get into so much trouble when we feel embarrassed by not knowing because we believe that there's stuff that we're supposed to know as humans. I don't think so. Number 8 was the joy of travel. Nothing has changed. It's just different now, dragging my kids along on these trips. Number 9 is purpose and platform, recognizing that one's purpose has always been present, but having a platform can amplify ways that you can make an impact. And so use your platform wisely. Number 10 was the last one. And it's interesting to me that this was the last one because it is no longer true for me. But I talked about the value of tough love. And I said that, tough love is sometimes the most genuine form of care and that it challenges and supports growth, urging an individual to face truths that can lead to significant personal development. I've reconsidered the notion that tough love is the most genuine form of care. My experiences, especially with my children and my partner, have taught me that this just isn't true. The most genuine form of love for me is what naturally arises and feels true, and often it is not tough at all. For a long time, tough love was all I knew. But over the past decade, the affection from my partner and children has introduced me to a love that is sweeter, kinder, and deeply enriching. Thank you all for joining me today on this special episode, Reflections at 45. As we've journeyed through these insights and shared experiences, I hope you found even a spark of inspiration for navigating your own path. It's been a privilege to open up about the highs and lows of the past decade and reflecting on how we can embrace our growth, our truths, and the wisdom that comes with age. Now, as we close this chapter and look forward to the adventures ahead, I am reminded of the beauty and transformation and the importance of staying true to ourselves. Remember, it's not about having all the answers, but about being open to the questions and the unknowns that life presents. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep embracing life with all its complexities. Thank you for spending this time with me. I can't wait to share more with you in the episodes to come.